Awesome, awesome. Good day, good morning, good afternoon. I think because I'm actually in Atlanta right now, so I'm in a
Okay.
different
Oh, wow.
whole different time zone right now. So I think good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Dan. Thank you, Mr. Adam, for coming in here today. I really appreciate you guys. And I hope everyone is staying safe. Man, it's been a rough couple weeks here, with everything going on with, George Floyd and the protests and everything. And I said, let me bring the leaders, my top leaders, to come and talk about, the issues and how we can succeed in this time and being able to, put our first, a right foot forward, But before we go ahead, I just want you guys to give a quick intro. Mr. Dan can give a quick intro of who you are, about the Porterhouse KC, so people can know where you're at and what other things you have going on.
Absolutely. So, hey, my name is Dan Smith. I am the co-founder of the Porterhouse KC, or organization created to help support underserved entrepreneurs in the urban core. We do that in a few different ways. We have these speaker series events. It's kind of like workshop style sessions to kind of touch on high level aspects of business for folks to get a basic grasp of certain concepts of business. But it also provides an opportunity for individuals to network. And we were doing those live for the last 3.5 years, and then COVID hit. And then so now we kind of pivoted a little bit with those, and we're doing these Wednesday evening conversations with entrepreneurs, community leaders, whatnot, and kind of the same premise to talk a little bit about business, but also about COVID and some of the crazy stuff that's going on now. We do have a space, us along with Chess Inc. We have a space that we purchased right off of 31st and Truth, and that is going to be a incubator, small business incubator. Yeah. And we're really excited about that. It's under construction now. It's been under construction a little bit for a while. It's taken a while to get up, but we're still moving in the right direction. So that's all that matters. I appreciate you inviting me to come on, man. I appreciate you.
For sure. You are one of the people I look up to. I see you doing your moves, making everything. I'm like, when I grow up, I just want to be like Dan Smith. I want to have your beard, and I want to be able to, move like you move.
I don't know about that. I don't know about all that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yes, Mr. Adam, welcome. Just give people a little bit intro about yourself and about StartLand News, because I know you and Mr. Dan has worked hand in hand for a couple of events. Just give people an intro about yourself and StartLand News.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel similarly about Dan. I really admire your work, man. So StartLand is the parent organization. We do 3 different buckets of work. It all originated back in the Kansas City Startup Village, the first neighborhood that got Google Fiber. And really our mission on how do we build and cultivate a more entrepreneurial culture in Kansas City, where everyone knows that they can dream big and create their own future. It's not always, a part of our culture in Kansas City. So we do three buckets of works. We do storytelling through StartLand News. So we have been doing that for 5 years. We create a lot of experiences, Startup Crawl, Innovation Exchange, Back to KC, opportunities to really bring the community together and drive meaningful conversation. And then we do a lot of work in the talent space, a lot in education, really trying to create experiences for young people to build their confidence and capabilities to solve real problems. And just, the sun's coming out here, just 2 weeks ago, we did a pitch competition for high schoolers, and we gave away $26,000
Wow.
to them that were coming up with solutions related to COVID. So that's what we're really excited to be chatting with you today.
Yes, man, awesome. This is fantastic, and especially during this summer, even before this time, what StartLand News has been able to do is really incredible. Being able to, pump in, the neighborhoods that actually need funding. So that's awesome. And you guys also have stories where you cover businesses and entrepreneurs, which is awesome as well. Now, we all have seen everything going on in the news and media, and man, rest in power, George Floyd. And it's been an awesome movement, man. I just want to hear from you guys. what have you guys been seeing? What have you guys been hearing? What have you guys been doing? With everything going on.
I don't know. You want to start, Danny, or me to jump in?
Go ahead, you got it.
Well, I mean, I think, one, I'll be super honest. I mean, as a white guy that really has grown up with every privilege that there is, it's been a journey of pushing myself to get uncomfortable and dive in, and it really, this moment has pushed me even further. And what is really what it feels like we're also this is a historic moment that we're going to look back, and this actually did create some change. Again, is it going to take it as far as it needs to? No, but I have, it took me a long time to really understand my privilege. And it's still something I'm unpacking. And one thing that really struck me, and then I want to hear what Dan has to say, was when all this stuff hit with George Floyd, I was busy, right? Like I had a big event that week. We were hiring a couple people, and as a white person, I could have chosen not to engage in it, and I would be perfectly fine, right? Like I could choose to say I'm busy. That stuck. Bless you.
Thank you.
And but like I had that choice. I had that privilege to not
Yes.
to not get uncomfortable,
Yes.
right? And I think that is why this is proving to be historic. That for whatever reason, this video caused enough white people to say, I can't ignore this anymore. I have to dive in. I have to care, because it's not until white people choose to get uncomfortable and understand and feel that pain and go there, that things are going to change. And and like I said, I am by no means an expert, but I know that I have to push myself to get uncomfortable, because again, I had that choice to not spend time letting it affect me. And I think what we're seeing, why this is historic, is more and more people are letting it affect them and are choosing to engage with it instead of avoid it. And I think that's why this is
wow.
a moment.
Yeah, that's powerful right there. That Mr. Dan, put us on.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I am no expert at any of this, and this conversation that I had, anything that comes out of my mouth is representative of me, and that's it. Not my organization, not the greater good of the race. I mean, any of that. It's just my personal opinion. So, I want to start out by saying that, but I also want to, first of all, it's weird. And Zig, I would love to get your opinion on this too, but as a person of color, but it's weird, and it's weird in that the things that happened to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Aubrey down in the Carolinas, all that stuff happened, and we've been like, there's no way we can avoid it, right? And like Adam said, he had a choice to either continue on and ignore it, or engage. There's no ignoring it for us, right? This is kind of what we live in, and this is a daily thing, right? Like you ride down the street and you are constantly looking your head, and I'm just speaking from a Black male's perspective, because I know Black women have a different perspective as well, but from a Black male's perspective, when I was young, there were certain times at night that I didn't feel comfortable going out. And not because of I was afraid of my own people, but I was afraid that I was going to have to deal with the cops at some point, right? Getting pulled over, getting my car searched, getting handcuffed, things like that. Those things happen to me, right?
Yeah.
We end up getting desensitized to a lot of this stuff because it happens so often and so frequently, and there's no ignoring it, right? There's you do things and you change your daily routine and you change the way you act and do and would do with the thought of these things in mind, right? So this is a normal thing for a lot of people of color, right? And so when that happened, unrest, uneasiness, frustration, boiling over, it just kind of it boils over. It gets to these points. Same thing that happened in Ferguson. I mean, we get to these points and we get frustrated that these things still continue and that we have to do these things. And then we have to worry about individuals telling folks how to protest, how to address the issues, right? If we had a rule book on how to address these issues, I think they would have already been, I mean, this stuff would have already been taken care of a long time ago. And so then we get out here and we talk about the rule book of protesting or the rule book of changing laws and getting these things addressed. This is the second time in the last, 7 years that this has happened in Minnesota specifically. So what happened back, when the guy got pulled over and ended up getting shot, the guy that he was actually he worked at a school, right? Worked with kids, and he got pulled over and got shot by a police officer. And this was in Minnesota too. So like, if we knew that there was an issue then, why didn't it get corrected then? Right. So I have a soapbox too. So definitely stop me if you have a feeling or a thought or something that comes up.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm taking all in and I'm going to respond.
But I wrote some words down as it relates to this conversation. And because I often just ramble and I like to I end up just talking off key and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. So I wrote some words down. Yeah. And I wanted to just kind of throw these things out here for the sake of conversation. But one, ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know something's happening, it's easy to just dismiss it, right? Yeah. And it's bliss. It is bliss. Like if there's some if my trash is piling up, but I'm not paying attention to it piling up, and my wife is doing all the movement and she's putting trash in the bags and this and this and that, and I'm not paying attention to it, guess what? Ignorance is bliss. So it's not even top of mind for me, right? And she's frustrated with it because she has to deal with it daily or constantly or something like that until she notifies me. And then ignorance is no longer bliss. Now it's my obligation to make sure that I'm paying attention to the trash. It's no longer bliss, right? Intentionality is a big thing. Equity versus equality. There's a huge gap when we talk about equality versus equity, because there's a lot of equality talk, but not enough equity talk. Assumptions. Adam, I'm not speaking to you, about you, but I'm using you as an example. To assume that we were raised and brought up in the same manner is dangerous. To assume that we were brought up in the same family type or we had the same similar socioeconomic backgrounds or anything like that, that's dangerous, right? Assumption is really dangerous.
Yeah, Dan, real quick, you said to assume that what is the we you're referring to?
Me and you.
Okay, us.
Me and you.
Okay.
Yep. Literally.
Yep.
Stereotypes, dangerous. Acknowledgement of these differences, it's important. We talking about being open to perspective, protesting, voting, and representation, and what those things mean in this movement. These things are all they all matter. And I think that we like I said, I go back to this assumption thing. We assume a lot, and we put our perspectives on others, and are not in the game of wanting to understand others more than they should, or what we should, getting ourselves uncomfortable. And like me walking into Adam's space 4 or 5 years ago with nobody that looked like me in that space, right? that was uncomfortable for me to do that. But I did it because of a greater good, a greater purpose, a greater reason, right? Because I wanted to break down barriers and lines that I see the people that where I come from have to endure, right? That's not on Adam, but that's on me to be able to be okay getting uncomfortable, to go into that space, to be able to break down those barriers and those lines. But just as well, Adam doing the same thing, conversely, is important.
But Adam, I don't know. I think you have some stuff to say.
Yeah, I'll try and be succinct. So one thing I feel, and I don't know that it's the right thing to feel, but I definitely feel a responsibility. I mean, white people created this structure. I mean, Black people didn't create a structure that oppressed them. White people did that. So I think it is the responsibility of white people to unbuild it. And the things that I've never gone on a run. Well, I don't really go on runs, but if I were to go on runs, I wouldn't be scared, right? The thing for me, and this is, you can educate yourself, and I've seen a lot, like, go and read these books or watch these, but the thing that really got me to made it personal to me wasn't reading books or reading articles. I've always done that a little bit. It was the first Black friend I made. Well, it was a true friend, right? That I cared about. Not that everyone knows people.
Yeah.
And for me, those two first people that I can say were really friends, like that I cared about and like got invites to my wedding, were Daniel Edwards and Donald Carter. And that wasn't that long ago. I mean, that was maybe like I'm 35. It probably was when I was 30. The first time I could really say I had, like, again, I knew all kinds of different people, but the ones that you, like, if something bad happens to them, like it hurts you too, was Daniel and Donald. And them telling me stories of their lives and what they went in them being my friends is what made it personal to me, right? Of hearing their stories of all the times they've been pulled over and the questions they get asked. No police officer is going to come up when I get pulled over and say, "Do you own this car?" They don't ask me that, but they probably would ask you guys that. And so hearing those stories, and also I've heard more than one Black friend say that they've been asked, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Like, I would never be asked that.
That's a standard question for us.
Right. No. But it wasn't until, like, and now Dan, same with you, right? Like, now I care about you. You are my friend. And when I hear it, it hurts me. But until that point, it's not personal, and it feels like it's just a movie or something. Like I can turn it off. And I'll tell you that, and I'll leave it here. One person that's been really impactful in my life when it comes to this is actually Tina Peterson, who runs the Sprint Accelerator. I guess now it's the T-Mobile Accelerator.
Okay.
One of the things she asked me, and it really got me think, she said, if you invited 100 people today to a party or to your wedding or whatever, what would they look like? And she asked me that, I don't know, probably 8 years ago at this point. And I couldn't honestly say if I invited the 100 people closest to me that there would be anyone of color other than the Mexican Arredondos, right? But no, not a single Black person would have been in that 100. And that, I'm like, I'm not okay with that. Right? Like, and so I think it's those simple things to help you realize how separated we are and how intentional you have to be, or what break it down. Anyways, I'll stop there because I could.
So I just wanted to. So one thing you said as it relates to the feeling of we messed this up and we have to fix it. I don't think it's a and I forgive me for saying this because I don't mean anything by it, but there's this savior mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like we need to save you all from these problems or these issues. And it's not a savior situation. It is a working, and then we talked about the equity versus equality thing.
Mm.
It is an equity thing, right? Allowing equity and being more intentional. Like you said, you looked at your surroundings and you felt bad about not having a more diverse group of friends that you feel like you could bring in. But we all are products of our environment, right? We all, that some things that we can, as children growing up, there's limits to what we can change and what we can. But after you become an adult, your responsibility level just goes, through the roof. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, and hopefully, like, and in the same sense, in your context of that explanation, Adam, I lived in that same bubble, right? I grew up on the east side of Kansas City, 33rd and Jackson. My mom still lives there. There was no diversity on my block, right? And when we talk diversity, people think automatically, oh, there's, diversity means black. No, it doesn't. Or diversity means people of color. No, diversity means diversity, right?
Yes.
So our neighborhood wasn't diverse at all, right? My high school was a little bit, but elementary, middle, all black or Mexican. And then I get to high school and I end up going to a private school. My mom got me into a private school and it still was primarily African-American, but we had probably like 10 to 15% white and other. And that was my first experience. And Tim Gibson was my guy. We played football. We played on the same football team together. And that was my first experience holistically, like, and Tim was like one of the guys. So it wasn't a thing, right? There wasn't a difference, right? There wasn't something that I had to adapt to or to learn or anything like that. It was just fellas, right? Camaraderie. And Tim might not have known the experiences that we had to go through because we didn't necessarily have those conversations either. So Tim we're just homies, right? We're just friends. And until these things start happening is when we actually are forced to have these type of conversations. Like Adam, we've had this conversation in brief in the past, right? But it was because of a need, right? It wasn't something that was just a general conversation that we just had. So let's talk about diversity a little bit. Let's talk about equity a little bit. It just doesn't come up. But when there's issues and there's problems and there's a specific reason, now we're having these conversations and now is the time to get uncomfortable. Just live in this uncomfortableness, live in it and grow in it. And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what this is. We're living in it and we're growing with it. So.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I want to come back to is, and I don't disagree with you. I think there's a lot of white savior mentality out there, but I think the fact is if white people don't choose to care about this, it's not going to change.
But that's a difference. There's a difference, though. There's a difference of savior versus working together. Right. I went to the plaza, and I last night, and we did the prayer, the walk, and we walked with some folks down at the Country Club Plaza, and locking arms with folks, doing this stuff together it means more. There's not a if we either save you or we're out. There is a locking in arms, right? We're doing this together. That's what I mean by that. Well, it's not necessarily.
Right. Well, I mean, when I say to solve, you have to engage it. You have to. It is dialogue. It is discomfort. I think so often that white savior mentality manifests in philanthropy. Right? Is white people giving money to poor Black people. Right. And to me, that's white savior, right? And that's a lot of how it manifests. Like, yeah, I care about it. Look at where I put my money. It's like, yeah, but you are living in your mansion.
Yeah, it goes far beyond that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and all you're doing is creating a dependency on you, not 100% dependence to go and thrive. So to me, I'm glad you brought that up because I think there very much is that white savior complex out there. I feel good
But
when I give money. But I
we
agree.
will take that money though. I'm just saying,
Sure.
if you need if you need to put the money out there.
But I think if that money doesn't come with discomfort of pushing yourself to understand why that money is needed,
Yes.
well, that's the white savior.
So
yeah.
Like Dan said, and like you, Adam, said, is we have to lock hands together. And I've been seeing this in the protests. Go ahead. You want to say something? I've been seeing this in the protests, you know, going around in the Kansas City protests all over the country, in the UK. And it's just been I think it's the most diverse protest we've ever seen in a long time. It's never happened before. Now, I think people are realizing that, you know, I think exposure is important, being able to just leave your comfort zone, leave your friend group that you're normal to, enter into different space and learn from different people, because that's the only way you see what people are doing, and that way you can understand, why do people see me the way they see me, and how can we work together, and why do I see other people the way I see them, you know? So it's diversity is just not a thing we talk about, it's the thing we act on.
Yeah. And so I believe inclusion is action, not words.
Yes.
But a couple of things real quick that you know, giving money is easy. If you have money, giving it is easy. Getting uncomfortable is hard. And I have really come to believe that, and this is a big part of why I'm passionate about the work I do. I always talk about thoughtfully creating discomfort, because I believe comfort is the enemy of progress. If you are comfortable, you don't change. Right? When you're cuddled up by the couch in the middle, or by the fire in the middle of winter, and you're comfortable and cozy, you don't want to move. You don't want to change.
Yeah.
You want to stay there. And I think that's a metaphor really for, you know, cultures like Kansas City. It's built on comfort. I mean, it is, our mantra as Kansas City for years has kind of been, it's a comfortable place to raise a family. Yeah, if you're white, you're right. Like, and I think, so to me, it's how do we thoughtfully create discomfort? Because if you just rage against the machine and just create unbearable discomfort, people don't engage. So you have to do it thoughtfully. And
but that's,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but that's exactly what, because I did a video, I think it was last week, because I was talking about it, because I was kind of frustrated with folks, because I would see, you know, these different posts. First of all, social media is a thing, right? This is the reason why all of this is happening right now, because of social media. And a lot of people want to, you know, a lot of people talk bad about Facebook or Instagram, and some people don't. But, you know, there's this, this thing. But this is the reason why all of this is happening right now, is because of the exposure, right? I was going to say, though, I scroll down and I see opinions about, you know, how to do these things, right? And I've had conversations with friends of mine that don't agree with the protest. And I have my own opinion about the protest. Like, I hadn't been down there, and not because I didn't agree with it, but just because, and you think about Martin Luther King, and you think about Malcolm X, and you think about these guys, and if you really knew how old these guys were when they were actually protesting and doing it, these were young guys that were on the lines, locking arms and everything. And the older folks were there to support strategically, you know? And that's kind of where we are right now. I think it's all a necessary problem. We have to do these things to make people uncomfortable, right? These changes don't necessarily come in a huge form unless there's some unrest and uneasiness and problems and issues. And man, I'm tired of them, you know, looting. I'm tired of them tearing stuff up. If we go down there, I'm just being honest, and I'm not an advocate of tearing up stuff or anything like that, but I'm gonna say that imagine there were just peaceful protests, right? And there were just people sitting in one little circle, legs crossed, listening to somebody in their conversation, and after that, everybody just left. Do you think, first of all, that the other 3 officers would have been charged with first of all, do you think that would have been transferred to the governor, right, in the state, instead of staying local, to be able to be tried at a state level versus a local level? It wouldn't have happened. Do you think he would have, that charge would have went from 3rd degree to 2nd degree without some type of rage or some type of major frustration. Peaceful protest works sometimes, just like voting works, right? Just like advocacy works, right? Just like locking arms work. All these things are a necessary problem to be able to enact change, period, right? Even if you don't understand it, not just you, Adam, I'm just not talking to you, I'm just talking in general. If you don't understand it, it's fine. It's okay for you not to understand. But at the same time, don't pass heavy judgment on the folks that are actually doing it, because they are a part of the change that we're seeing out here. Like, period, like no question. You know what I mean? So I went last night, and that was the first time that I went. And it was a different experience, man. It was a different experience for sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to something, Adam, or I could go ahead?
Well, I mean, just so many thoughts. I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. And, you know, and I use the phrase thoughtful discomfort. And I think I use that more in like, how do you kind of bring individuals along? But I think your point is I want to qualify that a little bit. I think when you have such power that has to be disruptive, thoughtful discomfort isn't going to change anything, right? I think it has to be extreme. It has to be rage. It has to be.
It's unfortunate, but it has to be.
But I think, it wasn't, and we've seen this over the years. The protests have gotten louder and bigger, right? I mean, ever since, I mean, what was the first one? I don't know, Trayvon Martin, or, you know.
No, it's too far to go back. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, the first one that got filmed, right? Because the change is it's filmed, right?
Yeah.
This has always been happening. But, you know, now I feel like it's now society of people that have empathy are seeing it enough. Again, Black people have been living it their whole life, but white people are now seeing this trend long enough that it's building into this crescendo of like rage.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said, Dan, this generation, they consume from social media and they're seeing it all. And I was going to make the same point that you made earlier, is these protests. I mean, I've seen the ones that I've seen, I've thought were more white than not white. At least
a lot of them. Same here.
Yeah. And I mean, that is change, right? Like, that is different. That's not what it was in the past. And I think that's what we've kind of seen is the first protest back, you know, when the first well-known filmed police killing was, it was all Black people. And then I think as you've seen through the years now, it's mostly, at least again, in what we are seeing, it's mostly white. And that is historic.
Yeah. I mean, so honestly,
I just want to, before we move on from this particular piece, I saw this thing and my wife shared it on Facebook. I didn't get to share it, but I'm gonna share it though. It's a young lady. Her name, well, she's not young. She's an older lady now, but her name is Jane Elliott. I don't know if you know who she is or you're familiar with her, but her life's work has been dedicated to anti-racism exercises.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
anti-racism exercises. And she's a white woman, blue eyes. But her life's work, and she was an elementary school teacher, and this back in the 60s, this is what she said, back in the 60s, she experienced something that she had never experienced before that changed her life, right? And put her on this path to show people what inequality means and what that looks like. But she did a Oprah show back in 1992. And they did an exercise, not an experiment, an exercise where it was based on the color of your eyes. So the blue-eyed people had to go in a certain area, they had to put something on, and the brown-eyed people had to go to a different area. The blue-eyed people got treated really bad, got treated rough, right? They came in 2 hours early, had to wait outside, didn't get food, didn't get, anything. The brown-eyed people they came in right on time, they got ushered to their seats, they got them donuts. I mean, it was an experience. And then the whole experience was unfolded on live TV on the Oprah show, right? Because Jane was on the stage The folks that got treated bad were upset. They were unruly. Jane was inciting it, right? She was pushing more rhetoric, and it was a message behind it. But look it up. It's on YouTube. It's called Jane Elliott, Blue Eyes
Yeah, I think I saw that video
versus
too.
Brown Eyes, Anti-Race. Oh my gosh. I watched the whole episode. It was like 30 or 40 minutes, something like that. But her life's work is that. And so if you want to experience or really understand what that really means, I think you watch that video and she hits the points.
Can
She
you,
hits it.
hey, Dan, can you share that link in the chat? Could you find that? I was
Yeah.
going to add on an article, really powerful article for me that I just read recently, was actually in the National Catholic Reporter, written by a Black priest. And he started the article with a quote from James Baldwin, which was an activist back in the 70s. But I think say it again.
No, I just said I love Baldwin.
Yeah. But he started with a quote from him, and this is I just shared it in the chat, and Zeke, I don't know if you can share it out somehow.
Yes, I can. I have that.
Every white person in this country, I don't care what he says or what she says, knows one thing. They know that they would not like to be Black here. If they know that, they know everything they need to know, and whatever else they may say is a lie. And that's what he starts this article with. And he actually, of all the things that have happened over the last 2 or 3 weeks, he focuses in on the Amy Cooper situation in Central Park, about how he knew what to say. Again, that one, no one got killed or anything, but she knew she could, as a white woman, what she could say and she knew, and the assumption she knew, that as a white woman, the police are going to believe her over the Black guy. The police are going to assume the guilt of the Black guy. All these things. This article kind of went through one of the more powerful things. And I think the other thing that's I think is really powerful is in the context of like Christian faith and Catholic faith, that again, that's weaponized so often. And like, I thought it was a really, really powerful piece. And I recommend anyone reading that. Again, the article is called "The Assumptions of White Privilege and What We Can Do About It." Amy Cooper knew exactly what she was doing. We all do, and that's the problem.
I want to ask this, if you guys have anything you want to add to the previous thing, but I want to ask this. Going forward and seeing the protests and seeing the massive impact of what has been happening, as leaders, that you guys, because I'm a young person, but you guys are leaders, how do we start implementing effective things that will bring change? And what advice do you want to give to people out there to start doing to make sure that this is not just going to be something that happens in a month and then everyone forgets about it, but we need to be constructive in the way we do things?
Go ahead, Adam. You got it.
I mean, like I said, I think it's about action. And I think everyone is at a, and I can speak as a white person, everyone, is at a different point in their journey of, I think some of accepting how terrible it is for people of color, and, and also like understanding what matters that you can do. I mean, I do think it does start for white people in like being like I said, I mean, it's not fair, but you have to choose to get uncomfortable. And I think, like I said, some of these articles, I'm going to watch that video you just said, Dan, I've not seen it, is repeatedly go there. Because it's one thing to like watch one movie or read one article or one book. But then again, it's like watching a movie. Then it's like, but if you, and I think this is where the rage comes from, people have seen this rerun, right? I mean, people have seen George Floyd be killed now dozens of times over the last decade on social media. And I think, so for me, and I think what we're seeing now is many white people for the first time are starting to do something about it, whether that's protest. I know I've seen a lot of like voting initiatives to say we have to vote. I mean, one of the things that struck me, I was talking to my 28-year-old sister, is young people are the ones out protesting. Young people are also the people that don't vote, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, that's great if you're going to go protest, but elect the people that are going to stand up for what you just protested for.
100%.
Right. And so I think one of the big things is, and that hadn't struck me recently, but young people protest, but then young people don't vote. So like, you have to vote. And again, it's not all that, there's more, but I even think as, as far as choosing where you spend your money, even if everyone does a little bit of research and chooses one Black business that they want to intentionally support, shifting that wealth from white to Black, or just white to people of color. I mean, what is the stat for every if white people have $100, white families have $100 of wealth, the average Black family has $5.04.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really
I
low.
think is the last number I saw within the last few
Mhm.
days. And so how can we affect that? Spend our money on Black businesses. So, those are some of the things that come to mind immediately. Again, there's an infinite number of things that need to be done, but I think, choosing to repeatedly engage and educate yourself, and this is largely speaking to white people, but again, I think everyone, maybe there's some in all of it. Where do you spend your money? Maybe just make one choice. Again, I don't think, only spend your money at Black businesses, but like choose one, start somewhere and say, I can get my flowers from this Black owned business. And every Mother's Day, every birthday, whatever, I will do that and start there. And then vote. Like, don't get out in March and then not represent in the polls and let a generation that grew up in segregation. That's the other thing. And I will end on this. If you are 74 or older, you became an adult in a country where segregation was legal. In how many 70, as healthcare has gotten better, more and more 70-plus-year-olds are still in power. So no wonder we're not changing, but this is what gives me hope. If we can get some of these people into office, we have to start cycling that out. And that's just, you grew up in it. It was okay. You formed your being. You became a man or a woman in a time where that was okay.
Mm.
And some of this is replacing those people.
So I agree with Adam. I think voting, it matters. It matters a lot, right? Like local level voting. If I don't want to put an importance on voting, like a level of importance, but local level really has a ton of impact on the day-to-day, when you walk out your door or when you're in your house. Affairs matter more with local voting. So
Yep.
yeah, that's a big thing. Your city council, your school boards, your mayors, your just local elected officials, just it matters. And you get some that might talk the talk that sounds good to you, but they're not strong enough or willed enough to go fight and advocate for those things after they are in office too. So that's a thing too, right? Having the fortitude. I do want to say that this is uncomfortable. This is okay. These conversations are uncomfortable. And I do want to say that this is not something that I normally engage in, right? But I think it's necessary, right? Just
Mhm.
like me and Adam, we had those conversations before. That wasn't comfortable, but I think it's necessary.
Mhm.
I think that we have to start living in these uncomfortable conversations because this is what helps push people forward. I think trying to be less judgmental is going to help us. If I tell you my experience, it's not your, or if you tell me your experience, it's not my position or place to doubt your experience and think that you're lying about what you went through,
Mm.
or think that was your ancestors. That's not you. That's not what you have to deal with. That's the folks that had to deal with that 300, 400 years ago. That's not you, right? I think we need to get outside of being so judgmental. And I think that we need to live in being uncomfortable. And I think that we need to go vote. I do think that protest is important and it matters and it needs to continue because it's going to push change. I support the young people and what they're doing. Adam, I appreciate that contest, that competition that you guys hosted with all those young folks, man. I got to mentor one of the groups that made it to the top 8. That was exciting. To see that is just empowering, to see what those young folks are coming up with and the solutions that they're coming up with. It's all necessary. We need more people of color in executive positions. This ain't just about city governments, right? This is also about private industries as well, right? A lot of the influence of the country comes from these corporations, these large corporations, and we're not represented at the majority of these larger corporations. So forcing that conversation to happen too. There's so much, right? I just appreciate you bringing us on and having this conversation. Because I could keep going on and on. I appreciate you having this conversation. It definitely needs to continue. Adam, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are after you watch that video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I did post a Ben and Jerry link too, because that Ben and Jerry statement was profound. I don't know if you've read it yet, but it's profound. So I posted that right under that video too. So
I'll also post the links on the video on Facebook. So if people want to go watch it, they can go watch it as well. And also a video to a link to your article, Adam. You want to say something?
I think
you can't say anything else, Adam. That's it.
No,
you already said your last thing.
No. We had to end on Patrick Mahomes.
I'm playing.
Okay.
I just shared that article. What he did when he used his voice as a Black quarterback, the best player in the NFL. I hadn't really thought of it in that context, but I just shared an article, and I think it makes you proud to be a Chiefs fan, more proud to be a Chiefs fan.
Chiefs?
Yeah, but they ended the article that I just shared, and Zeke, you can share that out, is his name is Patrick Levon Mahomes II. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. And by making a stand in the most important video in the league's history, he became so much more. And the NFL, the next day, in response to that video, said things that it had largely the opposite said ever since Kaepernick. And I think these are the things that mark history.
That's powerful.
Sure.
Well, I just want to say this. Thank you both for coming on this. This is awesome. You guys educated me because, like I said, I'm not an expert, and I mean, I know you guys are none of you are experts, but being able to, step out of your comfort zone to get in a conversation like this, it's not easy. Not everyone would say yes, but you guys say yes. And I just want to say thank you guys for the work you do. Thank you for coming here to educate us. And man, this is a great time to to go diversity, and we all have a role to play. We can't just let them watch this happen. We have to take action, like Adam said. Like Dan said, you have to get outside that comfort zone. You got to step outside. You got to step into different spaces. And I just want to say thank you guys for the work you do. And man, I hope whenever this COVID thing goes down, we can get together in another event. Make things happen, because you guys are always doing great things, and I want to be part of that. And lastly, I want to ask, what are the platforms that you guys want to put out there for people to reach out to you and see what you guys got going on?
So I got the just at the Porterhouse KC is our handle. If you go to both on Instagram and Facebook, on tomorrow night we're having a great conversation about mental health. Bringing some mental health folks on to help get through these trying times. And it's at 6:00. It's on our Porterhouse KC page. So definitely go subscribe, like. I am d.c.smith is me on Instagram, and just Dan Smith on Facebook. So
awesome. What about you, Mr. Adam?
Yeah, I mean, so StartLandNews.com is our storytelling platform. Actually, the biggest story ever in the 5 years of StartLand News was the Isaac Collins story last week. Already has over 25,000 reads.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Biggest story ever. So StartLand
Wow.
News, a free to subscribe. Definitely recommend that. And then the parent organization, so StartLand, that does all this work, is just StartLand KC on all channels. So on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, StartLand KC, and follow along.
Awesome. And let me give a quick pop to myself. I just had Isaac Collins on my show just last week, so you already know where it's happening at. But man, thank you guys for coming on again. And I just want to say, you guys have a great day. Stay safe out there, and keep pushing and keep doing the good work. And I'll see you guys on the other side.
Thank you for hosting us.
Appreciate you.
For sure. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Bye.